Hey, everybody, it's Jeff here with the Money Trekker podcast. And I am super excited today because we're going to talk about identity theft. Now, why am I excited about that? Because I have one of the foremost authorities and experts on identity theft and what is out there, what things are really causing havoc in our world today. If you haven't been a victim of identity theft yet, just wait, it's coming to a theater near you unless you protect yourself. So we'll be on just a second with Gary Kasper of Identity Theft Solutions. So hang around and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody, it's Jeff here with the Money Trekker podcast, and I have my friend Gary Kasper on today. Hey, Gary, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I am fan-freaking-tastic, man. Just flew in from Florida, so
Yeah.
my arms are tired, and it's been a long day.
That was a long flight. How many flaps did it take?
I don't know. It's kind of like that, the old Tootsie Roll thing. 1, 2, 3.
And it's done. Yeah.
Well, everybody, I wanted to introduce Gary. Gary is part of Identity Theft Solutions. It's his company, and he's the CEO. And we're going to talk about identity theft today, what it is, and how Gary got into the business. Not only is he an expert in this, but he also runs his own business. So he's experienced this. And so, Gary, tell us a little bit about why you got into the identity theft business.
It's funny you asked that, Jeff. This isn't something that you go to college for. You don't walk into your counselor's office and they hand you that sheet of paper and you look at it and it says policeman, fireman, doctor, archaeologist, all these really, and then in the middle of it, it says identity theft expert. That's what I want to do. I ended up going to the College of Hard Knocks. Believe it or not, I was living in California, living the dream, like everybody else, not worried about identity theft, not even thinking about it, just going through my day. Somebody would say it, I'd blow it off and tell them they were crazy. Got home one afternoon, walked down to the mailbox, the long walk, get my mail out. Isn't it funny? With everything that's going on, bills always come. Everything else will get lost, but bills will always show up. Mm-hmm. So I got my stack of bills and I went back to the house and sat down at my desk and I started going through my bill. And all of a sudden I came across this little blue piece of paper and it said, there's a warrant for your arrest. And I'm like, who mails you something that says, oh, by the way, we got a warrant out for your arrest. So I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a scam, so I took it and I just shot it on my desk and it went off my desk and out on the floor into the house. And a couple of minutes later, my wife walks by and she stops and she looks down and then she looks at me and she gives me that wife look that, are you going to leave this on the floor? Look, I'm sure anybody that's been married knows that look. And so I'm like, no, I'll pick it up. Well, in her mind, I was going to get up right then. In my mind, it was the next 3 days. So I grudgingly got up, picked it up, set it on the desk, put it under a book. And she goes, so you're going to call that? And I'm like, yeah, I'll get around to it. So then I got that second wife look, like, you're going to do it right now. So I said, okay. So I looked at the time. It was after 5. So I'm like, I'll call tomorrow. So I get up the next morning, pick up the phone. I call the number. I'm waiting to hear some recording or this number's not valid, but I don't. To my surprise, the lady goes, Travis County, can I help you? So I kind of got quiet for a second. I'm like, I pulled a Scooby-Doo, And so I says, well, my name is this, and, I got this in the mail. It's a piece of, it has to be done. This can't be happening. So I hear her bang on her old computer. She answered my name and my date of birth, and she bangs on the computer and she goes, yes, sir, Mr. Kasper, there's a warrant out for your arrest from 1983. So then I pulled one of those cricket modes, cricket, because I didn't know what to say. So I'm like, well, ma'am, can you fill me in? And this is 2008. that this is happening. Okay. Did you
need
catch
to-
the 1984? This is 2008. Okay. So she explains it to me. She says, yeah, you've had a warrant out for your arrest since 1984 for check fraud. I'm like, well, in 1984, I was in Europe. I couldn't have done it. I said, ma'am, that's not me. And I'll never forget these three words. It doesn't matter. It's yours. So I'm like, okay, but what can I do about it? And the advice she gave me was, one, you can stay out of Texas, or two, you could take care of it. So I sat down with my wife and we talked about it, and I decided that I was going to take it. So I bought a ticket one way, of course, because you didn't know what was going to happen. Flew in there. My brother drove me down to the police station. I was arrested, processed, jailed, and had to post bail before I could do anything about it.
Wow.
And so I was lucky that day, and this is where being a military veteran paid off, because when I went in front of the judge, she asked me two questions. She goes, why haven't you changed your address? And I'm like, well, I don't have to because I live in California. And the judge goes, so you flew here? I said, well, yes, ma'am, begrudgingly, but I did do it. And she looks at me, she goes, so you're a decorated veteran? I go, yes, I am. And she goes, well, I'm not about to put a decorated veteran in jail. She says, can you pay it? So I said, yes, my wife is waiting on the call. So I called my wife in the courtroom and we paid it and they dismissed it. And that's how Identity Theft Solutions got started.
Wow.
That 8 hours in jail was a life changer. And it wasn't even jail, it was a holding cell.
Yeah.
Still, it was
It's
bars.
still a jail.
It's still a bar.
Yeah, if there's bars and you're sitting on the toilet / bench, yeah, that's not, that is not, or the toilet combo with a water fountain thing. So, not saying I've ever been there, but just.
And what's really funny is I got back to California and I had purchased this package of services from this guy. So when I got back, I told him about what I was going through, and he looks at me and goes, did you use your service? I go, what service? He goes, the one you're paying for. I'm like, I'm paying for a service that would have took care of this. And he's like, I'm losing faith in you, and I'm like, so that's how I found out about the service that I have. And then from that point forward, the more I dug into it, the more I found out how miseducated the world was on what identity theft really was. And voila, like a pop a bottle of champagne, the rest is history.
So let's talk about, our audience is mostly entrepreneurs, business owners. How, we hear about identity theft, we hear about cyber threats and everything else. Could you first off just kind of define what identity theft is?
Okay. And actually you have three entities. You have fraud, which is what everybody knows about. You have identity theft, and then you have cybercrime. So it's three separate entities. All three entities are protected by a different source. They're not all lumped into one. Fraud is what everybody's used to. Somebody gets a hold of your credit card, they duplicate it, they go on eBay, they use it, they write the number down, they hack into your checking account. That's fraud. It's protected by the Federal Trade Commission. And the bank, if it happens, the bank has to put your money back in your account. I can go into details with that later if you'd like to, but that's fraud. It's just stealing. They don't need your identity. Identity theft, by definition, is where somebody takes your personal information, your name, your address, your date of birth, your credit score, and your social security number, either one or all of that information, pretend to be you and go out and commit a crime, i.e. they take your information and go open a checking account, or they open a brand new credit card, or they go to a hospital and render services in your name, or they use a fictitious set of information and take out a loan against your mortgage and you don't know about it. And it just goes from there. Cybercrime is like the Wall Street of identity theft. This is where your information, your name, and when I say information, I just don't mean your name, your address, your date of birth, those are things. I'm talking about your 401ks, your insurance, your medical records, first and last names, country of origin, sign-up dates, gender preference, device information, usernames, user conversations, transcripts of email correspondence, password hashes, token, the list goes on. This is the information that is bought and sold on the dark web. And what happens is they take it, like recently you had the Houston pipeline. Did you know that they paid a $4.4 million ransom for that?
In Bitcoin.
Yeah. So think about that. So the difference is, one is like Wall Street, one is a personal attack on your identity, and the other is just stealing. And they're all three protected by a different entity. And you have to know the difference between the three and who to turn to before you can take care of it. And
Mhm.
I do seminars and I explain the difference in all of that, the differences and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So those are the separate differences between them. And they are three distinctly separate crimes. It's not all bundled into one. And people need to realize that. Okay, somebody hacks into your bank account, takes your money. It's not identity theft, it's just fraud. The bank's liable for that. I can explain that to you later if you want. Identity theft, you have to file a police report. You got to file an identity theft affidavit report. You have to write a bunch of letters. A good resource for you to find out this information is, oh, let me guess. You and myself wrote a book on the exact same
Yeah,
thing.
we
You
actually,
know,
so
it's kind of like,
we'll put that in the show notes as well, but
it's
actually
called
said,
the Identity Theft: The Road to Recovery. It's very explicit. Mr.
mhm,
Kiko did a great job putting that book together.
mhm,
You guys need to get it. It'll help you a lot. But
absolutely.
that's the difference between them, Jeff,
Yeah,
and so you really need to understand that.
absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about businesses. We hear these big things about cyber threats and, people having to pay big amounts of money, but let's talk a little bit about identity theft and how that affects, let's say, the employees of a company. And what does that kind of relate to when it comes to the company itself?
Well, people need to understand that there's a lot more when an employee has an identity theft issue. It's not something that is just going to go away.
Hmm.
The average employee will spend 6 months and 200 work hours trying to resolve this problem. And the issue with that, the concern for businesses is the only time these employees have to work on this problem is when they're at work, because
Yeah.
that's when the places are open. And I don't know about you, but I have never called DMV or the Social Security office and got somebody on the phone within 30 minutes,
Hmm.
which is the average lunchtime for most people.
Mhm.
So they're going to spend 20% of their workday, 2 hours of their day for the next 6 months at the job trying to fix this problem. And if they don't get it fixed, they're going to spend the rest of their day worried about it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
think
they're
about
they're
that.
still not effective, even
Yeah.
even if they get it fixed, they're still worried.
So let's say you have a company of 10 employees.
Mhm.
And I know that you're looking at this employee, and he says that he has an identity theft issue. Well, the boss goes, well, you know what? That's probably your problem. You need to take care of it,
Mhm.
or we'll have to deal with it. Okay. So, and then you end up dealing with it and you fire them and then you got to replace them. Now that might work with a real small company.
Mhm.
But let's say that you have a company with 1,000 employees or 500 employees or even 100 employees, and 10% of your employees have an identity theft issue.
Mhm.
So take 10% of 100, which is 10, multiply that by 200 hours over the next 6 months.
Mhm.
Now, how does that affect your production and your overall profit in your company?
Yeah, well, and that's just what you paid out. I mean, you hire people and you expect a force multiplier of 5 to 10 times. So that's really the cost of it is, that
Mhm.
number of hours times $5 to $10 or 5 to 10 times whatever, whatever you're
Mhm.
paying your employee. So, I mean, that it gets wildly expensive, and a lot of, I would guess a lot of people feel ashamed about this and they're not super forthcoming with their boss about it either.
Yeah. And just think about the relationship impact that it would have on your employees and your senior management if senior management offers a solution to this problem instead of just saying you deal with it or you're going to get, consequences. No, it's like, look, we understand that this is a big problem. Here, we're going to offer you a solution to this.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think that's going to do with their relationship? So it affects the relationship with the employees, it affects the overall production, it affects your overall profit. And you don't know, I mean, 6 months is the average. This employee could have this problem for years.
Mhm.
Take it to the production side. Okay. There's a difference between somebody who's taking care of the floors and taking care of the bathrooms, as opposed to somebody who's putting the brakes on a car on an assembly line,
Mhm.
or somebody who's mixing chemicals, or somebody who's handling millions of dollars and their mind is not there.
Mhm.
You know, um, you're getting ready to go into you send one of your top people into a meeting with somebody, and this is the client that you've wanted for years.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it, and you don't know that the person you're sending in, who's your best gun, has an identity theft problem and their mind is not all there, and you lose it
Yeah.
because you're not aware.
Yeah.
The impact on a business is astronomical. And
Wow.
people need to start looking at it like that and caring. How many businesses do you think budget identity theft loss revenue? There's a line in there for say, okay, we know we're going to happen. The bigger companies through cybercrime, there probably is.
Sure.
But for this side, there's not.
No, for small companies, there isn't. I mean, anything that
Mm-mm.
happens could just devastate a business.
Yeah.
I think, one of the things that was somewhat shocking to me when we were writing the book was that chapter that I wrote on child identity theft.
hmm
That is probably the most heinous thing I think I've ever had to read about, then write about.
Well, it's like looking at it from my perspective. I try to tell people all the time that when it comes to children, identity theft is a blind spot for parents.
Mm.
Because most parents don't perceive children as being a threat. They don't even think about it. It's like they make the decision for themselves and they don't think about their children. In reality, an identity theft person can literally ruin the future of that kid's life.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the stories that I share, that people they don't believe it. I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, do you think it's also that once again, that confusion between fraud and identity theft? Well, my kids, they don't have credit cards and they don't have, they're not out there buying things and stuff like that. Yeah, but somebody gets a hold of their information, they can, just do all kinds of crazy things.
Well, it's like, when you and I were kids, well, let me say when I was a kid, because there's a few years between us, I didn't need my social till I got my first job.
Yep.
So I was 14, 15 years old. I didn't have a social. Now
they've got to get them like
at birth because of citizenship and proof. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a child's social security number at birth, that's like giving an identity for a cyber criminal a blank check.
Yeah.
Because it's clean, it's pure, they can use it, nobody's looking at it, nobody's watching it. And it's like 1 in 5 children last year were a victim of identity theft, and their information was taken before the age of 9. And here's a kicker. Do you know that 18% of all identity theft cases when it comes to children is family, bloodline?
Yeah. Yeah, because they have easy access to it. And there's a special place in hell for those people. just
I don't want to go, and then on the revenue side, I mean, think about it. The average cost to a small business behind one incident is $200,000. And 60% of all small businesses, they close just after one incident.
Yep.
How many businesses do you know have 200 grand laying around in case this happens?
Just if something happens, you have, you can absorb $200,000. You're going to pretty much declare bankruptcy immediately at that point.
Last year in 2020, there were 2,200 cyber attacks a day on small businesses.
Yeah. During the time when we were all locked down and everything else. So the cyber thieves didn't seem to lock down very much last year.
Which makes it an increase,
year, right?
Which makes it an increase of about 141% last year.
Jesus. Unbelievable.
And it's identity theft and cybercrime is slated this year to be a $6 trillion industry. Give me another industry that generates $6 trillion.
Yes. Yeah, that's insane.
It's like my little niece used to say, it's unbelievable. It's like, it's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, I was hearing something this morning of that the guys that took down the pipeline, they were saying that they had, basically they've kind of shut down at this point, and I think they've been able to gather like 90 some odd $million, just that one group, by doing this kind of Robin Hood thing, and they think they're Robin Hood, and it's like, no, you're not. You're scum. Basically scum.
It's just that, and I know this is cybercrime, but look at the reality of what happened. This is a pipeline that directly affects the East Coast.
Yeah.
It really has nothing to do with the state of Texas. Nothing to do with the state of Texas at all. The East Coast. We still had gas stations that ran out of gas because people panicked
Yep.
because of something that, so, and that was it was an indirect reaction to that, but it's still, that's because of cybercrime. It
Sure.
affected us in Texas.
Yeah, well, it was funny because I had friends on the East Coast that are in the business that I'm in, and they're all like, "Well, are you filling up your cars?" And I'm like, "Why? We make the stuff here.
Yeah.
Why am I worried about it?" Now, it also spiked up gas prices 30 or 40%, in a
Well,
short period of time right before the holiday too.
it's like with the JBS meat market,
Yep.
the meat packing plant. They already put it out that prices are going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of paying $2 for a chicken, now you're going to pay $8.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what cyber anything is in a packing plant, but we'll go with that.
well, it's they hold them for ransom.
No, I know. Yeah.
Is basically what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let your information out or your trade secrets out, how you kill cows or whatever it is. So talk a little bit about the seminars you do with companies.
My seminars focus, I believe in education, because people today, they still don't understand how identity theft affects them personally, affects their business. They don't understand how big it is. They don't understand how long identity theft has been around. They don't understand the cost. Like you've always heard me say, most people walk around here still using their H&P insurance, hope and pray, or they just hope and pray it doesn't happen. So my objectivity is to go into to companies and small businesses and say, look, hopefully try to help the relationship between senior management and employees, but show the company itself that this is something that you really need to take seriously and you need to address. I understand that you may not have the funding to protect your information fully, but have something in place, something for your employees, because this is going to come. The senior management needs to understand what employees go through.
Yeah.
Employees need to understand what senior management goes through, so that I go into a human resource director's office. Nothing against human resource directors. I'm the president of the board for the Williamson County. I'm on the Director Association. But a lot of human resource directors think that it's just a personal problem that their employees have to deal with. And I sit down and I go, okay, well, just do me a question. Do you have a service in place? They go, yeah. I said, okay, great. Well, can you just tell me what it protects?
I have no idea.
And that's exactly what you get. So I'm like, well, how do you know what you bought them is working for them? They don't, because they don't even know what it's protecting. And then the owner of the company is depending on the HR director to make the right decision. And the decision was based on price, not functionality.
Correct.
So you're looking at all of these entities that are coming into business, for small businesses and big businesses, that you need to understand. You need to have a course where employees can sit down and watch and learn what identity theft really is. You need to have a course where senior management can sit and see what identity theft is. And this is what my seminars do. They give you everything. They teach you the history of identity theft. I mean, like back in the Western days, okay, they had a real simple answer for identity theft. They just shot and killed the guy and took his name. Didn't have to worry about any comeback, and it runs through the history. And so I show you the history. I mean, the very first case of identity theft by definition is in the book of Genesis. People, so it's something that people have to understand, because it's going to cost you if you don't.
Yeah.
It's like, even if, it's just, and your employees, they go through a lot emotionally, physically, stress wise. I mean, the Phenomenon Institute did a study in 2018 with 3,000 victims. 18% of that 3,240 contemplated suicide. That's how bad it got.
Yeah, that's just horrendous. Yeah.
And would you want employees coming to work for you contemplating that?
Yeah. Suicidal, because all this is stressing them out.
And then if it's their kids, that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then people just aren't prepared to handle it. They're just not.
Yeah.
And so companies really need to start taking it seriously. And this is where my seminars come into play. I can explain it in 1 hour, and you'll walk out with more knowledge and more information than you've ever walked out with before.
Absolutely.
Because I care. I care that you understand. And, of course, I want to sell services. Come on. That's how I make my money. You know what I mean? But you have to understand the problem. You have to understand the solution, and you have to understand how they work together.
Yeah. And
You
you
know how
can't
many-
force somebody to buy this
No.
service. Yeah.
Do you know how many people buy it just to make themselves feel good?
Yeah.
And just like, something big happens, like Capital One or Equifax or Marriott, and they get scared, so they buy the first thing they see.
Mhm.
Don't research it, don't look into it, don't know what it does, don't know how it works. They buy it, they feel good, and then they just forget it. And then they don't try to use it until something big happens and they're implicated.
Mhm.
And then they pick up the phone and it doesn't work, or it doesn't work to their expectations. But like I said earlier, most people don't even know that they have to file a police report.
Mhm.
And they get mad when they do. Oh man, I gotta follow, it's part of the process.
Yeah. Just you
So-
got it. Yeah. And you have to have people that know what they're doing to help you. Could you tell me, when there's a bazillion now identity theft services out there, what makes the best ones the best?
Well, there's two types of services. There's one called resolution and one called restoration.
Mhm.
Very simple distinction. Resolution, they ask the questions, you do all the work.
Mhm.
Restoration, you ask the questions and they do all the work. Price wise, costs you exactly about the same.
Mm.
But when you look for it, there's roughly about 132 companies that offer some form of identity theft service. And you have to be careful. Just because it's labeled identity theft service doesn't mean that's what it does.
Mhm.
There's a large company out there that learned that the hard way.
Mhm.
And everybody knows what I'm talking about. They learned it the hard way. Okay. But you have to do some research. It's like if you're going to sign, if you go buy a car, well, you know what? I really can't use that excuse anymore because now you can buy cars out of the vending machine. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Ah,
But when you used to go buy a car or buy a house, did you just buy it because it looked good, or did you want to go look at it? Did you want to go walk through it? Did you want to test it? You have to do identity theft services the same way now.
mhm.
Call them, ask questions. How long does it take them to answer the phone? What's the history and background of the agents that are helping you? Where did they get their training at? What exactly does your service do? What do I get for $19 or $29.95 a month? Check these people, check and see what they do. Because the worst thing in the world is for you to get in the middle of, like the lady who went into the hospital because she needed shoulder surgery, and come to find out she owed them $250,000 because somebody had already used her medical information in that hospital.
Mhm.
And what really made it sad was the insurance company didn't want to believe that she had been a victim of identity theft.
Mhm.
And if it's you, which do you think that the insurance company is going to believe more? You calling and telling them it's not you, or you saying, I have a legitimate company who investigated it, and here's the findings in the report
Yeah.
showing that it's not me? What do you think is going to hold more water? The glass with the bottom out of it, or the glass with the bottom in of it?
Mhm.
So you have to research these companies. Then there are some out there that are pretty good. Really, if I didn't have mine, there's some other companies that I would probably go to. And then there were some that I wouldn't, and like I said, you can get them from Costco, you can get them from the bank. Most homeowners insurance has an identity theft policy built into it. It's more of a fraud assistance service, not identity theft, but they have one in there. I've told you the story. I went to Covert Ford and bought my truck. And when you buy a used vehicle, they try to sell you maintenance packages. In the highest maintenance package, there was an identity theft plan in the packet.
Packed in there. Just
And I'm sitting there and I have a coat on, so they don't see my logo shirt.
Yeah.
So I look at it and I go, And I look at the sales guy, I said, what exactly do y'all know about identity theft? So he tried to give me this plastic answer. I said, sir, just a minute. So I took off my jacket and he saw my logo and I'm like, yes, this is what I do for a living. Now, again, what does Covert Ford know about identity theft?
Mhm.
He's like, it's just a way for us to make an extra $3 or $4 per
You
person
got it.
per month. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you sell 5,000 cars a month
Mhm.
times $3
Yep.
times 12 months,
Adds up.
that's a nice barbecue.
Yep.
You
And
know what I
that's
mean?
something that people don't cancel. It gets stuck
Mhm.
on there, or they do it through their loan or whatever. And
The main thing that I tell people, Jeff, is you're putting your financial future in the hands of this company.
yeah,
Make sure that it can hold the weight,
that's exactly right.
and I'm going to tell you right now that, and the best thing in the world to do, this is the best thing in the world to do, is get to know this guy, Gary Kasper. He's pretty good, just
He's really honest, and he'll tell you the truth when it comes to that.
yeah, because
And you have more knowledge of this than anybody I've ever met. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that sell this stuff, a lot of just internet services, and that's it. There's not a lot of people like you out there that actually are professionals doing it.
Like if you go to my website is geared for education. It's not geared to sell. Yes, there are buttons on there that say, start your plan now for this much, and you push the button and you can sign up. But in actuality, my website is for educational purposes. That's why the blog is so full of stuff. And, because people need to learn this before they spend their money. It's, you go to most of these companies, they got beautiful sites, but they have 4 paragraphs of generic information meant to scare you. And then immediately they sign up. So they push a pain point and they give you the answer, and you sign up and you go away, and you don't know what you've got. Yeah. You don't know what you got. And then you pick up the phone to call them. Like most of my clients, like when they sign up, 8 times out of 10, they're going to receive an alert within minutes. And it's normally going to be an email alert. Their email somebody's tried to compromise their email. That's a quick fix. But what I do is I say, look, even though this is something small, I said, call the company anyway and introduce yourself and get the resolution. Start that conversation process. So when the big thing happens, you're like, instead of going, what do I do? You're like, let me just make this phone call, because you've initiated that relationship with them and you know that it works.
Yeah.
Instead of buying it and then waiting until the ceiling falls in and you're trying to find somebody, you're trying to find Billy Bob down the street to fix the roof. Learn, you're going to have to start putting some effort into this. I mean, come on, $6 trillion industry, legitimate and illegitimate. You have companies like Robert Herjavec, Duff and Phelps, Kroll, people that sell, malware, protectionware. Like there's a legal side of identity theft and cybercrime. And then you have the illegal side. Do you think either one of these entities want this problem to get better or get worse? They want it to get worse because that's how they make their money. This is not going anywhere. And the numbers show you're going to become a victim.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said at the beginning, it's not when it's not if, it's when that happens.
I mean, just out of curiosity, have you received any alerts that were like, wow, I forgot about that, or wow, I didn't know about that?
Yeah. I mean, there was accounts that I didn't even remember I had. And it was funny. I think I was telling you about one the other day. It was a workout app that I use on my phone, and it pegged across with an email address. And I'm like, let me, I don't know if I use that email address. Sometimes I use that one email address to set it up. And I went in there and I'm like, okay, it's telling me that that address doesn't even exist anymore. Well, I mean, this was probably something from 4 years ago, 5 years ago when I first started using it. And then I later on changed and went to a different app, or, a different email on that app. And so it's like, I didn't even remember that, but I mean, it caught that and found my information out on the dark web. So
we both have a friend that's from, I believe, Israel, and he has the service as well that I do. And they found a bank account of his that was inactive from 22 or 23 years ago that somebody was trying to use.
Wow. It's just crazy.
So it's like, and that should show people the depth and the power of the instruments and the technology and the knowledge that people have to remember. These identity thieves and these cyber criminals, even the fraudsters, this is their job. This is what they do for a living.
And they make a very good living doing it too.
They do. I mean, even with like, okay, well,
getting caught.
I mean, I complain about phishing, but I like phishing and protection. Okay. Because if it hadn't been for protection, I would have never known that me and the president of Nigeria were such close friends. I would have never known that. When he sent me my text saying that if I just send him $99, he would send me my part of the 100 million. I just thought that was the nicest thing in the world. It was like, yay, but
just
thanks.
About $5,000 to get that money out of Nigeria.
Yeah. And you really need to, when there are big breaches, people really need to do their research. Because like I dug into the Equifax breach, and it's amazing what I pulled up and how many people were directly involved in that and how they worked that. I watched the Senate hearings for Rick Smith, the former CEO. That was a dog and pony show. Sorry to say that, but that's really all it was.
Mm.
And it's amazing that how uninvolved the government is for individual identity theft.
Yeah.
Okay, there and it's like and their lack of interest or their lack of trying to do something about it is why the Houston pipeline happened. It's why the JB, because they're not doing anything. They'll, their answer to the Equifax was the September 21st, 2018. You can now freeze and unfreeze your credit whenever you want to through Equifax experience. That was their answer. That was the big answer for that, and then like Equifax, their response was, well, we'll offer you a free year of service through an identity theft company, but they didn't put it out.
Known.
Yeah, that A, they happen to own it, and B, if you opt into it, you sign a waiver saying that you'll never sue them.
Yeah.
And what they're and like I think like 8 million people opted into it. And then out of 8 million, if just 1 million decide to stay with it after the 1 year is up, what's 1 million people times $19.95 or $29.95? That's not a bad payday to the bottom line.
Absolutely, it is.
So people need to start paying a little more attention to identity theft and how it works, because come on, you don't reach $6 trillion by doing something wrong.
No, absolutely.
And that's where it's at. So I'm blessed. I have people in the financial advising world that I can talk to, in the IT world that I can talk to. I mean, even what's his name? Mr. Sprague that does contracts with I have people that I can reach out and that I can talk to because I've built those connections. But I really truly want people to know what identity theft is and what they're going after, what's coming after them, and it is coming after you.
Yeah.
And like I say at the closing of all of my seminars and all of my elevator speeches and everything, it's like, once you've heard me, you're going to see me now, or you're going to see me later, but you're going to see me because you can't fudge numbers, and the numbers show that you're going to become a victim.
Yeah, it's just the odds are not in your favor.
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about what's going on in your world. What's new?
Well, I've been involved with protecting personal identities for the last 10 years. And something that I've always wanted has now manifested. I now have a protection for small businesses. It's called Identity Theft for Small Businesses. We now protect your small businesses. And one of the things that a lot of small businesses need to understand is, if you don't have it in place, you need to have a vulnerability management system in place. And for people out there that don't know what that is, that's a company, or that's a business that goes into your company. They purposely go into your system and look for the vulnerabilities, and then report back to you, this is what we found, this is what we think that you should do to fix it. It's the very first proactive step that I've seen. Instead of waiting for somebody to hack your system, instead of waiting for somebody to find it, you've got somebody that goes in and actually is looking for you and then reporting back to you. Then we have IT investigators that literally will take, if you're breached, they'll take it for you and they'll fix it for you. So now you've got somebody looking at it before it happens. You've got somebody there for when it happens. And then of course we offer financial assistance through insurance. So we've housed all three entities, because there are companies that do all three of these by themselves. And you can take this and you can get it, if you're a small business and you have some decent protection, as you told me, you can add it to what you already have as well. So,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So that's very interesting to see what's coming up. So let's go ahead and take a break here, and we'll have our sponsors come on. And then when we come back, Gary's going to do the fast 5 questions for us. And we'll be right back. Hey, it's Jeff here for T-Works Co-working. T-Works Co-working is a shared office space with everything from desks for you to share up to offices and everything in between. And T-Works has locations in Cedar Park, Texas, in Northwest Austin in the 4 Points area, and Dripping Springs. So if you need a place to work, you need to get out of the house, you need some help really building up your business, visit
www.t-works.com. That's www.t-works.com. Hello, it's Jeff here for BK Wealth Consulting. BK Wealth Consulting is a wealth management and registered investment advisory firm with a little bit of a twist. BK works specifically with small business owners and self-employed individuals. And the whole idea is to help business owners and self-employed folks figure out a strategy to exit from their businesses. So whether it is a business valuation, developing an investment and financial plan and strategy, or developing an exit strategy plan for your business, BKA is there to help you and has the skills and the talent to do it. So if you want to learn more, go to www.bkawealth.com. That is www.bkawealth.com.
It's Jeff. We're back, and it's time for the Fast Five questions. Gary, you ready?
Sir, yes, sir.
All right. So you wake up in the morning, you find out your business is totally gone. You have all the knowledge in your head. You got $500 in your pocket. You have a laptop computer. What do you do first?
Cry? No, just kidding. You know, it's really funny that you asked that question, because if you'd asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said I'd have did the same thing I did before. Sit down, make a list, go out, start knocking on doors, build it just like I built it before. But times have changed.
Yeah.
So, and digital marketing and social media and digital media has taken over since the pandemic. So I would have to say the first thing I would do is take some educational courses, learn how to navigate social media, learn how to navigate all those things that I don't know. And yes, I can see in the back of your head, you're saying, I told you so. And that's okay. I can understand that. Okay. You know, it's like he's been waiting to say
this, like
he's been waiting to tell me that, y'all. He's been waiting to tell me that, you know. You could just see it on his face. It's written all over his face. You can just see it, you know. But
it took a pandemic to beat it into your head.
Yeah. But the first thing that I would do was I would learn how to navigate social media, and I would make the contacts with the people that could help me do that.
Yep.
You know, and so that's what I would do.
Awesome.
It probably cost a little more than $500, but I would have made some money by then, so I could add to it, you know. But that's what I would do. That's what I would do different.
I love it. What is the biggest business mistake you've ever made?
Same thing. Yeah, I told you so. Not building. Had I built the digital footprint, marketing, ClickFunnels, had I built all of this stuff in the beginning, like somebody was trying to tell me, I can't think of his name. I don't know who it is, you know. So
he was brilliant, whoever he
was.
Was.
It's a fan, just a genius. There was Albert Einstein and then him. You know, I would build that platform because you know, and a lot of it had to do with me and just, you know, I don't have a lot of patience. So it's like I would go into, like, I've been to some of the ClickFunnels classes that Omari gave and that you gave, and I wouldn't be interested in it because I was, I guess, intimidated by it because I didn't understand it. And I have, you know, I'm an extrovert. I mean, I'm good. You put me in front of a room and I'm on my own. But it's like, and I just, and that's something I grew up with. I knew. So I just kind of, you know, I ran from it and stayed away from it. And it like everything else, it caught up to me. So that's the biggest mistake that I made, was not listening. Okay, everybody, it was Jeff Keikel, not listening to Jeff and building that stuff. You know, had I been building it alongside of Jeff, I would not have ended up where I was, and I would be further ahead now. So, you know, that's the biggest mistake that I made.
That's awesome. Well, what is a good book that you recommend?
The Entrepreneur's Edge.
Okay.
Matthew Pollard. I mean, even though it's built for introverts, his techniques and his teachings and everything that he has, it works for anybody. But it's just he has 2 books out. Entrepreneur's Edge and Entrepreneur's Edge for the Network Marketers, I believe is the title of the second one. And if you want to learn how to build a business, if you want to learn what you should do from the beginning, if you want to learn exactly what it is, these are the books that you should get, and this is the guy that you should listen to. Because it's like people have no excuse now. If you want to build a business, all you got to do is just get in this guy's class, follow us. It works. It just does. He is a friend of mine. He's a friend of Jeff's, and he's a phenomenal person. You want to know who he is, just YouTube him or Google his name and he'll pop up. Greatest guy in the world.
He's out there everywhere.
Yeah, his books, bar none, are the best.
Yep. Well, and I mean, I one of the advantages of living here in Austin is I got to see Matthew really from the first day. I met him really when he first came to town. And I mean, where he went from literally being this unknown guy from Australia to somebody who was on the world stage, being flown all around the world, doing, 30 person or 35,000 person, events and stuff like that back prior to the COVID world. But he's still been working hard during the COVID time period.
And what I love about him is that no matter how big he gets, no matter how famous he gets, no matter how, every time I email him, he personally emails me back. He personally responds and answers, and you can always tell
it's weak, but he'll get.
Yeah, and you can always tell it's him because it's "Hey mate," or you can tell it's him. It's not something that you can tell it's him just by the way the emails are worded. Now he's a no nonsense guy. He's like, look, this works. I know it works. I mean, he's a no nonsense guy. So you can't come at Mr. Pollard with excuse. You just can't because But you want a book, How to Build, by far. Because he has books, he has classes.
Even if you're not an introvert. So.
Yep.
All right. What is a good tool that you use in your business every day?
Jeff Keikel, pretty good tool. Well, for me, like I said, the way I was raised, a lot of the stuff was pen and paper, pencil and paper, writing it down, taking notes. But learning technology system, learning like CRM system is really helpful. Learning a click funnel system, which I think is every business should have a click funnel. You need something that's generating leads and sending people to your websites while you're asleep, while you're not working. It's generating money for you while you're not working. And I think that's one of the most important tools that anybody should have. A, to understand how to build them and how they work, but B, to have them in place.
Yeah, just to have a funnel. Yeah. I mean, in every business, you don't even need a website, but if you set up a funnel for yourself, that's going to funnel people in. I mean, I think too many people set up websites that just confuse the living crap out of people and they get lost.
And I would say a close second would be find a business coach or find somebody that you can trust and you could trust, because there are coaches out there that they're just out there to make their money. And there are coaches because you need to be able to believe in what these people say, but find a business coach. Every professional athlete, every actor, every movie star, everybody that's made it, they have a coach. I know I played professional sports for 7 years. I had a coach. You have to have a coach. You have to have somebody that will tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, doesn't care if it gets on your nerves, doesn't care if it's, you're paying this person for their information, but you got to have somebody that will help you get to the next level.
And you're accountable too. I mean, they hold your feet to the fire and make sure that you get things done.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, how does somebody get a hold of you then?
You can call my office. My office number is 737-777-3093. You can email me at gary@idtsolutions.us. And my website is www.identitytheftsolutionsTX, because I am from Texas.com. That's identitytheftsolutionsTX.com.
We'll put all of that information down in the show notes page for us. So that if you are watching this and you're concerned about identity theft, give Gary a call, shoot him an email, do whatever you need to just get a hold of him. If you've got a company and you're concerned about your employees, he will come out and do a presentation for your employees and help educate them. So I think, it's the ball's in your court. You can wait around for it to happen to you and be a victim, or you could be proactive and get ahead of the game and make sure that you're watching that. Like I said, I mean, I will say I was one of those that was like, I don't know if I need this or not, but I rely on it now. And I mean, literally about once or twice a month, something pops up, and sometimes it's pretty innocent. It's like, oh, well, this loan got created. Well, yeah, because I was trying to buy a car, but at least they caught it. And
There's this is just one story, but it's very pertinent. There's one lady. I went to a title company and I did a short presentation, and one lady decided to get my service. Very nice lady, real estate agent, about our age. And so I met her at a Starbucks and we sat down and we signed up. When you sign up for my service, as soon as you process, they search you nationwide, court records, everything, addresses, 401ks, insurance method, they search you. Well, she got 2 alerts back. By the time we finished setting her up, she had received 2 alerts back. One was an internet and one was a court records. And so we opened the internet and it was an email thing. So I said, well, just change your password. That's what they're going to tell you. But, let's call them and initiate it. So she called them, she initiated it, she talked to them, she was real happy. So then she went to open the court records. And I'm like, well, you might want to wait till you get home to open that because this is court. You don't know what this is. Oh, no, because she's like everybody else. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm a good person. I have nothing to hide. Okay. So this poor lady opens it up and she found out that she had a warrant for her arrest in a town that was about 35 miles away for prostitution for 5 years.
it's crazy.
And my ask to everybody is this, that listens to this, can you positively tell me 100% that you know exactly what is on your credit report, what's on your social security number, what's on your date of birth, what's on your name, what's on your address? And you got to remember, businesses that store name and addresses, that's part of your personal identity.
Yep.
You have to protect those databases. And if you don't want to know why, just shoot me an email. I'll be more than happy. You can go to my website, schedule a free 30-minute session. And I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. So
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kegel. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, my friend. And once again, folks, if you need help, Gary's your man. Just reach out to him. He'll be more than glad to help you or point you in the right direction and educate you. If you have a service or you're looking for one, he'll help educate you on what you need to be looking for. So thanks a lot. Of course, we have these shows 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Wednesdays are saved for shows like this, where we have an expert come on like Gary and talk about what affects our businesses and us personally. So make sure that you show up, whatever channel you're watching on or this on, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, because we do some off-cycle things in between those days. I just did one the other day, and it's kind of along the lines of identity theft regarding Starbucks. I was hacked at Starbucks, and a couple of the things that I had done to protect myself actually saved me from having money drained out of an account as a result of that. So keep your eye out for that one as well. So thanks a lot. We'll see you back here next week.
Give me what I want.